Aloha, everyone. Welcome to Trauma Recovery University. I'm your host, Athena Moberg, and this is your amazing co-host, Bobby Parrish.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you again. As much as I can't see you, I know you're there.
Yeah, and we do have viewers, so we want to really quick just greet all of our amazing viewers that are watching us live, especially our UK audience that joins us on a weekly basis. It's 2 o'clock in the morning there. You guys are amazing. And we are so excited to bring you this week's episode of Trauma Recovery University. For those of you who are not familiar with our broadcast, we broadcast live weekly. And this show, this broadcast, this educational channel is specifically dedicated to adult survivors of childhood abuse, specifically childhood sexual abuse, and also we've learned that a lot of trauma survivors across the board, whether it's adult survivors of any type of childhood trauma, any type of abuse, all of the things that we talk about on a weekly basis, the topics that we broach and discuss, they go across the board and they're very helpful for trauma survivors. So we just want to welcome you, and if you are watching us on Roku, we are so excited. We've been talking about our Roku channel since August, and here we are several months into this, and we are finally 100% approved, and our Roku channel has gone live. So that's a really exciting announcement. We do also have 2 live events coming up in the month of June, beginning of June in Atlanta, Georgia, and end of June on the West Coast in the Pacific Northwest in the town of Raymond, Washington. So the topic that we have this week is intergenerational family dysfunction, specifically how dysfunction is handed down from generation to generation within families. And just tons of topics, tons of subtopics on top of topics. And I'm so excited to dive into content with Bobby this week and just share with you guys everything that's going on. And real quick, if you are listening on iTunes or Stitcher or iHeartRadio or another podcast listening device, we want to welcome you especially. We talk with our hands. Please go to our Roku channel, Trauma Recovery University, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Trauma Recovery U. And you can find all of these episodes, and we want to especially point out that each episode specifically has a downloadable PDF resource that's in a written format for you to follow along with our broadcast, which we will be showing on screen shares quite frequently throughout the broadcast. And this is available to you complimentary, just as a thank you for being one of our loyal subscribers or watchers or listeners. And you can find that by going to traumarecoveryuniversity.com and clicking on the tab that says downloadables, or you can go to bit.ly/Trauma Recovery U, and you'll see a tab that says downloadables. You can click on that there. And if you would like to be a part of our broadcast and our virtual studio audience, if you will, you can go on Twitter right now or Trauma Recovery University/watch, and there is a Twitter stream there, and you can interact with us live by using the hashtag #NoMoreShame. So without further ado, I would love to turn this over to our amazing host, Bobby Parrish, and we're just so excited that you're here. Welcome.
Absolutely. And I just want to make a quick announcement that my new blog on Psych Central went live today. So,
Yay!
so now you'll see twice a week I'll be posting on Psych Central. So at Psych, PSYCH Central, CENTRAL.com, and my blog is called Childhood Sexual Abuse. And so you'll be seeing me post there twice a week on topics about my personal story, the stories of that Athena tells or that others have told us, which of course we have permission to tell. And then we'll be posting lots of information about recovery and things that we think would be helpful for you to know about childhood sexual abuse, as long as other kinds of trauma. So keep an eye out for that. If you follow us on Twitter, Trauma Recovery U, TWAMA. Wow. I'm doing a Daffy Duck there. You'll see those posted. We post the articles so that you can click over them and to them and see them. So let's take a look at our downloadable. And again, this is something that Athena and I put together for you every week. It is available on our website, and you can go over there, click on the Downloadables tab, and you will see it. And the whole idea for us putting these together is to have something for you that is a brief synopsis of what we're talking about, so that you have literally a one-page resource that at any time, should you need it about this particular topic, you have it. You can pull out the one-page resource and you immediately have a little bit of education information, and then you have actionable tips you can take to feel better now. For example, a couple weeks ago we talked about sleep disturbances, nightmares, how difficult it is to fall to sleep if you wake up in the middle of the night, to fall back to sleep. So if you're having problems with sleep, go over to the website, download the sleep one page, and there you go. Lots of actionable tips and strategies to feel better. I think right now we have 25, 26 of them up, Athena.
I
You think
think
that sounds right?
there might even be more. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. We
Um,
have so many and they're all different topics and it's just incredible the comments and the feedback we get from you guys of how helpful it is to find information right away at your fingertips so that you can feel better today.
Exactly, and it's not long, it's not complicated. This is something that we're putting together that can be as simple as possible for you to get that help that you need today. So
And it's
today,
free.
and it's free. There you
And it's
go.
free.
And you don't have to go to the library or anything like that. So today we're talking about long words here, but pretty simple concept: intergenerational family dysfunction. And the reason that Athena and I decided to do this topic is because we see and we hear survivors talking about family issues so often. I think it is one of the number one topics that we hear survivors talk about, and that we have survivors come to us and ask about. And it just spans the whole range. Why did this happen? Why did my family let it happen? Why didn't my family member who abused me see me as more valuable than that? Um, you know, how can I break the cycle? How can it end with me? Am I part of the cycle? Do I do the same things that my family members do? We hear these over and over and over again. So I wanted to give you some tips and strategies for right now. I'm so sorry, excuse me. Um,
You have a little tickle in your throat
I
tonight, Bobby.
did, I do. Okay, so let's start with, and this is such an important statistic that I really want survivors to know. 93% of children who are sexually abused know their abuser. So that means that they're a family member, they're a family friend, they're a teacher, they're a coach, they're someone they know from church, they're the neighbor lady, any of those things. It's not the typical stranger who hangs out at the park, looking at little children and wondering which one he's going to kidnap. That's not the typical threat to our children. It is someone that either our family is connected to, or something that someone our child is connected to, and hopefully, anyone that our child is connected to, we have familiarity with ourselves. But when your family is dysfunctional, when your family history is dysfunctional, often that's not the case. So how does that happen? How do families allow these kinds of things to happen? And then another thing to look at before we get into that is another statistic that I think is so eye-opening. And that's that only 6% of abusers act alone. That
Wow.
means that 94 of abusers have someone who assists or enables their abuse.
Now, Bobby, could you pull apart the whole enables thing? Like, what does enable mean if I was just a person listening in and not really sure if someone in my family enabled it? What could you describe what an enabler could be?
Exactly. And this is important because when I say, only 6% acted alone, the immediate thought that runs through my head is, the the person who grabs the child and forces them into a room so that the abuser can abuse them. It's not really what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, for example, the grandmother who knows that the grandfather is abusing the grandchild but chooses to turn the other way. It's the husband of the woman who abuses her piano students, who chooses to leave the house when he knows things are going to get dangerous for the children. So when I say enable, I mean someone who can either ignore what's going on under their nose. They might tell you, oh, I really didn't know about it, but no, they knew. They just made the active choice not to do anything about it because, oh, things like that don't happen in our family. And I couldn't tell what would people say. Or they realize that it's a criminal act and they don't want their spouse or their family member to get in trouble, or they were raised in such a dysfunctional family system themselves that things like this happened and they were taught, we don't talk about this and we don't ever intervene. We just pretend it doesn't happen and we go along with our life. Does that
Yeah.
make sense, Athena,
Oh,
when I
yeah.
explain it like that?
Oh, most definitely. Thank you for pulling that apart just so we could explain to people what an enabler actually looks like. I mean, like
Right,
you said, it's not the person that goes, "Okay, I'm going to go over here for about an hour while you do whatever it is you're going to do. Okay, bye-bye." Like it's not
right.
like that. It could just be someone who has, believed the lie so many times themselves that they think that if they turn the other way that there's no harm being done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or that the harm of telling the secret would be so much greater than the harm of them keeping silent.
Yeah, I want to mention something super quick that we didn't mention during chat this morning with our
Uh-huh.
UK crowd, and that is a lot of times people who are enablers, and we know that a lot of times people that enable the abuse have been abused themselves, and so that's what the whole intergenerational thing is about. However, there's a lot of times that we've heard previously people's stories where the abuser themselves has expressed that the whole family's going to fall apart if they say anything.
Right,
So and so is going to go to jail, and then who's going to support the family? The kids are all going to starve, and you're going to be homeless, and everybody's going to die. You want that on your shoulders?
right,
Okay, then you just go ahead and be nice and quiet. Thanks.
right. Or you're going to go to jail too because you knew and you didn't tell. Then what
Yep,
happens? Then the children are going to foster care. You know what happens to children in foster care? And
yep,
it's all going to be your fault. So, when you have someone who is raised in pattern after pattern after pattern of dysfunction, that's why you get these kind of statistics, because those people become abusers or they allow themselves to be used as enablers. And when you have a generation after generation after generation of pain, people are going to try and salve their pain any way they can. And for people who don't address it by going to therapy, who are doing what they need to do, often they're going to address it in ways that we would label as acting out. And whether that's a passive acting out by allowing something like this to happen underneath your own nose, or it's an active acting out by being the one who is the abuser, either way, those are people acting out their pain because they don't solve their pain, they don't heal their pain.
yeah,
Um, and that's why it's so important that we look at this intergenerational pattern and we identify it so we can fix it. And that was one of the things that we talked about in chat this morning, that I think I see over the course of time, abusers use this as an excuse. Oh, well, that's what happened to me.
You should be grateful. You should see what I went through when I was a child. You have
Ah,
nothing compared to what I went through. You better
right.
just keep your mouth shut.
That's right. Exactly. Um, or it was good enough for me, it's good enough for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And then the pride that survivors feel when they break that cycle. Oh my gosh, I don't think that I see survivors demonstrate more personal pride in something than that. When they say, I broke it, my child was not abused by me or someone in my family because I broke the cycle and I protected them. Children get abused by strangers in ways we can't, or, by someone that they know in ways that sometimes we just can't prevent. But for all those things that we can prevent, it's huge when we can say we broke the cycle. It stops with me,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Oh, yeah.
Um, that's just one of these days we need to do one of our anthologies about that, Athena.
Like everyone who's broken the cycle.
Yeah, who can
Oh, my
stand up and
God.
say it stopped with me.
I would like to do a live Google Hangout and we're allowed to have up to 10 people in our live studio audience and give each person a chance to speak. Even if they want to have a blank screen, they don't even have to have their live face. Like right now, I'm down in the corner waving to everyone. You know, like it doesn't even have to be their face. They could just have their avatar or a sign up or something. And it would be so awesome to do a live Google Hangout, a live webcast with you and I and 10 other people that are going to be able to share our stories
Right.
of how we broke this cycle of intergenerational family dysfunction, specifically with childhood sexual abuse. How
That's
amazing would
right.
that be?
It is, and I think it would be so empowering.
Oh, it would be so amazing. I can't even, especially now that we have our Roku channel and like we're going to have such a large audience and so many more people are going to be able to tune in just from all around the world. All they have to do is search for the channel. I mean, I know that YouTube's already really huge and like their social media and all this other stuff, but gosh, it just feels like our audience has grown exponentially. You know, it's just so
Yeah.
exciting.
It's interesting because I know for me, I started doing my recovery before I had children because I wanted to make sure when I had children that I didn't pass it along. But once I had my son, it was even more important for me to heal my abuse. I might have let some of it go. I might have just said, okay, this is good enough. I'm just going to settle for this. But my child was such a motivation. And I think that I see that over and over again with survivors. We aren't able to do it for ourselves. But when we have children, then we're able to do it for them. We're able to do that work for them.
Yeah. No,
Somehow they give us
I
that
can definitely
motivation,
relate.
Um,
Yeah, definitely.
you know, or I'll talk to survivors and they'll say, I felt suicidal, but I couldn't leave my child alone. So there's
Yeah.
a point in our recovery where we can't choose to live for ourselves, but we can for our kids.
Yes, and we can't choose sometimes to make excellent choices for ourselves, but we can choose to make excellent choices for our children, like you were saying about really wanting to break the cycle.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the next part of the one page talks about how do we identify the patterns. And I
Yes.
took us off the one page because I want to talk with my hands here for a minute and
Okay.
um, with my hands demonstrate this awesome project that I once did. Um, One of the things about grad school, when you go to grad school to learn how to be a therapist, is
Uh-huh.
that you have to undergo therapy and you have to um, go through and do the things that they think your clients should do. Now, albeit I had gone through many years of therapy by then, but one of the first things that they made us do as marriage and family students was do a family tree. We had to go back 3 generations And then we had to start, they gave us a list of things to track: mental illness, divorce, death, criminal acts, addictions, things that were both, really good and not so good. How many divorces did Uncle Joe have? How many wives did he have? How many children did he have outside of wedlock? How many children did he have with, this woman over here while he was married to Aunt Sue?
Mm-hmm.
And both sides of our families. We had to do this 3 generations, and it ended up being, this massive piece of paper. And when you see it all laid in front of you like that, it's like, I can't believe I'm even alive. you know? And it was all
Yes.
color coded. They had us all color coded and all sorts of stuff, Athena. It was just wild that I can't remember what color mental illness was, but oh my word, you could see it, especially in the matrilineal, in the women's lines in my family. My great-grandmother was institutionalized for depression. She died in a mental health institution. My grandmother and her psychiatric hospitalizations. And you see it over here and over here and over here. And in the men, huge, heavy lines of alcoholism. Addiction after addiction after addiction. It didn't skip generations. It didn't skip family members. It took people down like, horrible virus, just one after another. And I think that is something that, if you're not feeling your best, certainly don't do it without a safe person. But to do it within the context of therapy or with a coaching relationship or with a safe person, nothing opened my eyes to the dysfunction in my family more than doing that. When you see it on paper, you can't ignore it. You just can't.
I know that my aunt, when I was much younger, my aunt actually did a family tree for our family,
Right?
but it was only for my dad's side of the family, and I never really quite understood it all. Like on my dad's side of the family, I'm related to Daniel Boone, and that was like the whole purpose of doing the family tree because we were all related to Daniel Boone, so it was like kind of this exciting thing or something.
Right, right.
And then I think on my mom's side of the family, I'm related to Elvis Presley, like by some sort
Really?
of marriage or divorce or something like that. Like, yeah, like I remember that when I was in, I think it was fifth or sixth grade, I presented my family tree to like my class or something. So, but I never really looked into it as far as dysfunction or abuse or the threads, like the common threads that went
Right,
through. But
right.
now that I have been spending the last 15 years or so doing some sort of therapy or counseling or coaching or personal development or something, like I feel like that would be a project that I would be super excited to do.
But you could even see it, can't you, in your head? Athena,
In
I
my
know
head,
that
I can. In
you,
my head, I know I can.
right? That's not what I meant, but I mean, you
I
can
see it in
trace.
my head, and I see it in like so many other people. Like I see a lot.
I see dead people. Okay, but I mean,
No, I know what you mean. Like I can definitely picture, like all of the people in my family tree, and just like I can even picture it on my aunt's wall. I mean, she's an artist, and she's the one who did it, and it's beautiful. And but I know exactly what you're trying to say about like the levels and the
right.
arms and the little, everything that sort of like went off. And then I have on my mom's side of the family, I have a cousin that's adopted, and I have on my dad's side of the family, I have a cousin who's adopted. Interestingly, those two people are the healthiest relationships I have in the entire family are my two cousins that are adopted. I know
Wow.
that that doesn't surprise you, but I mean, it's just interesting when I put it in those types of words.
Right,
Like I have
right.
excellent relationship with my cousin on my dad's side of the family that's adopted. She's like a sister that I never had, and she's one of my closest, dearest family members. And then my cousin on my mom's side of the family, who was adopted, incidentally, her mom is like the aunt that I'm the closest with out of both sides of the family. Like, I have the best relationship that's quote unquote the healthiest,
Yeah.
right? I have the healthiest relationships with the people in my family that are adopted, which I just find to be very interesting.
Well, the more that we do neurological research, the more that we realize how much of a hereditary component there is in mental health issues. And I know that's not that new, but sometimes when you have a hereditary component to mental health issue, but you don't have family dysfunction that goes with it, or you don't have a lot of stressors in your life, then that mental illness never develops. Or it develops, but not to the extent that it does for those of us who were bathed in dysfunction. And so it's interesting
I
that
think that's an interesting choice of words that you say, bathed in dysfunction. Like, think about how completely immersed you are
yes,
when you're bathing. Like when you're taking a
yes,
bath, how completely immersed you are. And if you're that immersed in dysfunction,
yeah, it's hard.
yeah.
It's hard to escape without getting touched by it. It just is. So don't feel badly if you're looking at this issue now and you're realizing, oh my goodness, this is why I struggle with these things. I inherited this from here, and you know, my cousins who struggle so much, and their mother has been married and divorced, 7 different times, and she's a heroin addict, and all of that gives us environmental stress that will bring on mental health issues that maybe would not have otherwise arisen. So it's that nature and nurture. And so when you get the unhealthy nature and then you get the unhealthy nurture, they just, they explode and they cause one another to just fly off into all sorts of dysfunctional little bits. And even if you weren't there, it's hard not to get hit by the shrapnel sometimes.
It's kind of hard to be in the middle of something and be quote unquote immersed, like we were talking about, without getting something on you.
It is.
I mean, I know that we've talked about this over and over and over again, and especially since we're on the topic of things that are intergenerational. So I know that this is not on the topic of family or sexual abuse, but I remember discussing on one of our previous hangouts when I was in a previous career of mine, like when I was living on the mainland. This is 15 years ago. I worked for an executive search firm. We did executive recruitment. That's the whole job that we did. There were teams of us, like three or four per team. And my particular team, we did searches to hire executives and top-level professionals for universities and museums.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So curators of museums, presidents of universities, that type of executive search. So, and then throughout the search firm, there were different partners and account executives and associates that all did different types of executive search. So at any rate, the executive assistants, all of us would get together quite often, and we would have lunch together, and there would be like an inter-office email or memo that would go out. And I know this sounds really quite very like fancy or over the top, ridiculous or whatever when I say it out loud, but there would be inter-office memos that would go out talking about like the new shade of MAC lip liner that was getting ready to launch at Nordstrom's, and like the new Chanel sunglasses that were getting ready to be released on Friday. Like, it was all everybody, shopped at Tiffany's and Cartier and Coach and Chanel, and it was just very, 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 very high end. That's just the industry. I worked in Irvine, in the heart of Orange County, where everyone is just all the pretty shiny people. That was it, whatever. And I lived an hour outside of town. I drove an hour each day to go into work. So it wasn't like I didn't live in that environment. But when you're immersed in it for 8 to 10 hours a day, you can't help but get that on you. You don't think that all of a sudden I was interested in that shade of lip liner that Mac was getting ready to release at Nordstrom's? Like, my life was about my son and making sure that he got to baseball practice on time and football practice and Cub Scouts. And, I was super involved in the PTA, and like that was my entire life. But when you spend 8 to 10 hours a day in an environment of people that can't wait to talk about the new shoes that are being released at Nordy's, or, oh my gosh, are we all going to go to South Coast Plaza and have lunch together? And that's the topic of the day. Like, I'm not proud that that was my entire life for years and years and years. Like, that's not something that my life isn't really like that now. I mean, I live on an island where everybody just wears rubber slippers. Like, nobody dresses fancy. And like, I mean, I can't remember the last time I spent anything extravagant on myself. Like, I wear the same clothes now that I wore 8 years ago when I moved here. I still have the same outfits. So like, but you can't be immersed in the culture, whatever that culture is, whether it's your family culture, whether it's a culture of dysfunction, a culture of abuse, a culture of ritzy Ritz, sort of richy rich people that are very shishi and very foo-foo and, very, bougie or bourgeois, or however they say that, bougie, or, just fancy like couture. You can't be immersed in anything, whether it's good or bad, and not get it on you a little bit and have that be sort of like what you're about, or like what your days are about. It's just a culture. It's what it is. And when you're in a dysfunctional family culture, it's not that you chose that culture. You were born into that family. It's not like you chose to be involved with Uncle Al, who is interested in children and that like has all these naked pictures everywhere. Like, that doesn't mean that that's what you're about. It just means that that's the culture that you're immersed in. And when we're not given a choice, Bobby, like, it's astonishing how it can affect our mental capacity to process anything, or to be even to function in a social environment. I was socially inept for most of my life because all I knew was the sheltered environment that I lived in, with people who were all racist. They were racist. They were cowboys. They were hillbillies. They were mechanics. They were abusers. They were alcoholics, drug addicts. You name it. That's the culture I was raised in, and that was my day in and day out life. And I don't remember even being able to see past that. I couldn't even see past it.
Well, you're bringing up an excellent point, which is that often abusive family systems like that are very tight-knit and they're very isolated. They don't value people going outside the family to have relationships and to socialize. And so very often you're isolated inside that dysfunctional family system, especially as a child, because you're powerless, and you're told that you're powerless, and you're told that your value lies in being with your family. And sometimes you're told, things like, oh, well, like you said, people outside of our family are, they're racist, and they're horrible, and they're mean, and they're stupid, and you don't want to have anything to do with them. The best thing to do is stay here with us forever. And by doing that, again, they soak you in that dysfunction. And eventually, a really sad part of it is that sometimes, eventually, our desire to want to go outside the family dies.
I'm glad that mine didn't die. I'm glad that
I'm glad it didn't too.
Had that. I mean, I can see what you mean, though. I mean, because when all you know is wake up, feed the dogs, feed the horses, rake the corral, get ready, eat, go to school, come home, do the same thing. What time's dinner? Go to bed, wake up, do it again, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. That's all you know. I mean, there aren't
Right. And then throw in there abusive emotions and abusive verbal statements like, this is all you're worth. This is all you're good for. Nobody else is going to want you. Nobody else is going to love you. This is the only reason I had you were to do these chores. You know,
Yep. Why do
it's
you think you were born? Why do
that's
you
right.
think you were born? You need
You
to
were
pull your weight around here.
that's
Oh, and
right.
then the ever famous blood is thicker than water.
Oh yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh
Absolutely.
my. Oh
Mhm.
my. Okay. Woo! I know we have a one page here somewhere, but man, you want to know what I forgot to do?
What?
I'm going to let you present to all and go back to our one page and all that. I need to look up the Rockstar Tweet of the Week, and I need to mention it and do a little shout out for our Rockstar Tweet of the Week, and then I need to actually post it by the time all of our rock stars and our beautifuls are actually watching our broadcast, because I forgot to post the code on the website for some reason. My bad.
Okay. No, that's okay. It's not like you don't have 1,000 things nipping at your ankles.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So to determine what kind of dysfunction your family may be handing down to new generations. And this touches on something that Athena and I repeat over and over and over again. As survivors, we have the need to know why. Why did this happen? Why does this still happen? Why is this happening now? And the reason that we want to know why is because we want to demystify the process. Because when we demystify it, we believe we can solve it. Sometimes that's not the case, but a lot of times it is. And so we really promote to survivors, to our clients, demystify the process, because when you demystify it, you take away its power. When something is confusing, when we don't know why something happened, it has a power, it has a hold on us that when we figure it out, it goes away. So it's important that you take some time to take apart your family tree and look at it and figure out what happened. And the first thing that I talked about here on the one page is to make a family tree. And this is exactly like I talked about in the project that I did while I was in grad school. Go back as many generations as you can, and I realize that sometimes within family systems that are dysfunctional or abusive, we don't talk about these things.
Oh, yeah.
So I get it, and I'm not at all telling you to go back and contact someone who's toxic and say, Aunt Betty, can I have some intergenerational family dysfunction information? No. I'm not, no, don't set yourself up to have anything harmful. Go with what you know. Or go, like Athena said, she has a couple cousins who are safe. If you want to contact them and say, hey, what do you remember? Great. But if not, just go with what you know off the top of your head.
Yeah. Hey, Bobby, I don't
Uh-huh.
want you to I don't want you to stop sharing the one page or anything, but I just wanted to give a little shout out to Jack and to Brenda because they're tweeting out right now. They're interacting with us and they're agreeing with everything. And Brenda is talking about how she can definitely relate to what it's like to be isolated with this dysfunctional family, and everyone else was bad. And then
Right.
Jack was talking about all of the family isolation because
Yes.
he was immersed in the Mormon culture. So yeah, we can definitely relate, you guys. Thanks so much for tweeting out and interacting with us.
And that's interesting because another phrase that came out this morning, and I swear, I promise you guys, one of these days I'm going to sit down and actually start keeping a list, aside from the list that I try to keep in my head, which sometimes is very flawed. But this this morning in chat, someone used the word, and help me remember here, Athena, what was it? A survivor orphan?
Yes,
Was that it?
That was either Rubius or Carl. I can't
Yeah.
remember if it was Rubius or Carl, but many people that are from families that are dysfunctional end up being survivor orphans. I'm going to find it right now. I'm going to find
Okay.
that in just a second.
Because when we choose to speak up and speak out and share our truth and speak against that negative family culture, they ostracize us. I've been there. And I know so many survivors who have chosen to speak up are there. And so we talked about that concept of how you're literally an orphan when you are when you choose to speak up, and you're a survivor orphan. So I had never thought about it in that way before, but that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Um, so when you go through and you do your family tree, the one page talks about different things that you can make notice of. And I'm not at all implying that these are all bad things, but these are the kinds of things that can create a dysfunctional situation. So things like domestic violence, addictions, and not just addictions to alcohol or drugs. Look for people who are addicted to spending, people who may have been addicted to pornography, any kind of an addiction you want to make note of. Children who are parented out of wedlock, children who were abandoned or ostracized. You want criminal behavior. Make a note of family members who refuse to communicate or acknowledge other family members. All of that, and then sit down and look for patterns. Like, for example, in my family, doing this, I mean, it was like being slapped in the face with seeing generation after generation after generation. And it wasn't just one generation after the other, it was throughout the generation of
Um,
alcoholism.
Rubius says that his adopted parents put money before everything. They were ultra misers and secretly wealthy. There was so much neglect.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. And you know what that you know what that tells him? And this is the kind of message that we get as children, that my parents value money more than they value me.
Oh, yeah.
And that, people, if you think that doesn't tear a child down to the core, then I'm going to line up 500 survivors to tell you how much that damages a child. Every child needs to know that they are valued and loved just as they are. And
Yeah.
when you tell a child that anything is more important than them, especially um, uh, something like money, a piece of paper, that represents maybe a vacate, whatever, then you're undermining that child so much. So if you were there, if you were one of those children that was raised being told you didn't have a value, understand that that is probably one of the big reasons why you're in pain now. And healing that in therapy, in coaching, will do wonders for you.
Yeah. I was thinking about that a little bit. Don't stop sharing the one page because I'm so excited for everybody to see it. But I was thinking about that while you were talking, Bobby, because remember how I was sharing in one of our episodes about how my mom used to like dress me up and take me to the
Yeah,
nail salon with her,
right,
and then she would like lend me out to people,
right,
and then like I remember specifically when I was really, really young that she had a lot of different boyfriends, and um, always it was like everything had to stop. The whole world had to stop whenever one of her boyfriends was around or in town or something, because they were going to spend money on her, or they were going to spend money on me, or like buy me school clothes or something like that. But I was never allowed to tell anybody about it. I was never allowed to tell anybody where my school clothes came from. I was never allowed to like tell anybody where I was going. And I wasn't, yeah, it was crazy. But I mean, it was obvious the subconscious message that was being sent to me is that, the money that was being spent on me, or the relationship that she was having that was an extramarital relationship, it was an extramarital affair, that was way more important than me if I was sick or if I was
right,
hungry or whatever.
right.
So,
And you can see how she would not say that, because she would say, but they got you clothes. But the reality is that that was a benefit to her. You didn't want clothes. You
no, not
wanted
really.
love. You wanted attention. You wanted approval. The reason she liked them to buy you clothes was because how you looked made her feel valuable.
Yeah.
So, if she would tell you that story. I'm sure that she would tell you, oh, stop complaining. This is all for you. I'm doing this for you. When the
Yeah.
reality is she was doing it for herself.
Yeah. It's hard for you to like know that that's what's going on when you're little
It is,
though.
exactly.
Oh
I
my
mean, we're
God.
sitting here. I'm 49 years old. Um, you're what, 41, Athena? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
41. I'm turning 42 this year.
And we're now understanding these things, and I mean we've understood them for a while now, but can you imagine trying to pick all that apart as a kid and try and understand it? Oh my goodness, no, we don't understand. All we know is that um, our mother trades us for a manicure to a strange man. You know, that's what you
Yeah.
know. And my goodness, what message does that tell you? What terror does that strike in your heart?
Well,
um,
I didn't really understand. Like, I think I'm even now, just at age 41, starting to understand the level of dysfunction that was going on intergenerationally because I know that my grandparents, I was realizing and recognizing this morning the stories that I have heard from my aunts and uncles about both of my maternal and paternal grandparents, and I loved my grandparents. You know, I loved them. They were part of my life, and I had no idea. But I hear the stories that were told over and over and over by different people, all of them matching up to the same story, so they all can't be wrong. And just the narcissistic behavior and almost
yeah,
the sociopathic behavior, or just the neglect for basic needs for children, or you know, the just the abuse or the
right,
neglect or the dysfunction, the level of dysfunction
right,
that was caused, that and the after effects of that, or the fruit that came from that
right,
level of dysfunction, was hunger and poverty, and there weren't proper clothing. They didn't have proper sanitary napkins. The girls didn't. There were foster homes. There was, a lot of different stuff that was going on, and that's not really my truth to tell because I'm not my aunts, I'm not my uncles, I'm not my mom and dad and all of that. But when I see the correlation
right.
between the stories that are told about my grandparents and my grandparents that told me stories about their parents and their grandparents, and they all line up and they all act the same and they all have this common thread of just this out of whack, like,
Value system.
distortion. The
Right,
value system was distorted. The value system
right.
is very distorted. The value was not on interpersonal relationships and
Right.
safety and basic needs being met and mental and emotional health. That was not where value
No,
was placed.
no, no, no. Uh-uh. And it's interesting because it's like looking in a mirror that has another mirror attached it. I'm thinking of kind of a fun house effect where you look in the mirror and all you see is a reflection, 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 reflection. You trace that pattern, that narcissism back generation to generation to generation to generation. And it's easy to see how it all dumped in your lap.
Yeah.
And um, it's hard. It's hard to realize um, how much damage your family system may have done to you. And we really want to acknowledge that if you're just beginning to figure all this out, that it can be very painful and it can be very difficult. So make sure that when you do these investigations, when you look at your family tree, that you have safe people to support you and to help you look at things and give you that reality check that you might need to help you really see things clearly. Because one thing that happens in a dysfunctional family system is that they tell us that what we see and what we think is not the truth.
Yeah.
And then by doing that, they undermine our own thought process. And then, we get confused. And even though we see that horrible thing happening in front of us, we've been told, oh, no, that's not horrible. You don't see that. What's the matter with you? And then you start to doubt yourself and doubt your own thought processes. And that
Yeah.
makes it a lot harder for you to name something as dysfunctional and step away from it.
Yeah.
Um, let's look here at the one page that talks about to break family patterns of dysfunction, because I'm willing to bet that if you are here, if you're listening, if you're watching, you're interested in breaking those family patterns of dysfunction. And you can do that simply by being aware. Do the
Yeah.
family tree. Look with open eyes. Look with eyes as objective as you can. When you are aware, that creates so much space inside your head to do your work and separate yourself. And so again, that's the second step. Do your work in therapy or coaching to address the underlying issues of the dysfunction.
Yeah.
Um, so if right now in the space that you're standing, you realize that you don't have good communication skills, or you realize that you get angry very quickly, do your work in therapy to figure out why that is. And I'm willing to bet that underneath that is a lot of pain, because pain often translates into anger.
Yeah.
Um, and do your work. Go see your coach, go see your therapist, talk about things. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. But when you do it, you break the cycle, and you're worth it. And the next one, learn new ways of coping with pain and stress. When we're in pain, those are the times that we're most likely to act out. I know within my family system, my abuser was horribly physically abused by his father. And that man was a nasty, malicious, horrible drunk. And I know he used to beat the tar out of my abuser. And so I understand, although it doesn't make it right,
No,
I
it does not.
understand that my abuser did what he did to me out of his own pain. I get it. It doesn't make it right, but I get it. And when I understand it, I can go, okay, I have pain. How am I going to fix my pain rather than taking it out on someone else? And
Yeah.
another time when we tend to act out is when we're stressed. And when we get stressed, we fall back on our oldest behavior patterns. Okay? So when I get really stressed, I get very short-tempered with my son. And so I have to teach myself better ways to deal with my stress so that I don't even get to the point of being so stressed I have to fight that urge to be short-tempered. You know what I mean? Because by that time, the horse is out the door and 20 miles down the trail. I need to address the issue so that that horse doesn't even get out of the barn to begin with.
Yeah, most definitely. And good for you. Kudos to you, Bobby, for knowing that that's what you needed to do.
And I got help. Because sometimes we can't see these patterns on our own. And we have to describe things. And, over a course of a couple sessions, for someone to go, hey, whoa, hey, you know what? I've noticed. I see A, B, and C, and I'm thinking they probably add up to D. And you can go, hey, whoa, yeah, I never saw that, but you're right. Learn healthy communication skills that will replace dysfunctional ones. I cannot name a client that I worked with. I cannot name a survivor that I have encountered who came from a dysfunctional family system who had good communication skills. It doesn't happen. Those two things are mutually exclusive. You
Yeah.
cannot have a dysfunctional family system that communicates well. It just doesn't happen. Now that doesn't mean that every survivor has a dysfunctional family system, because sometimes things happen and our family cannot always protect us and we're abused by someone, and that doesn't mean that our family system was dysfunctional. It just means that they couldn't protect you 24/7. So I'm not saying that every survivor has bad communication skills. I'm just saying that when you come from a dysfunctional family system, chances are extremely high that you did not have the chance to learn healthy communication skills. And I
Yeah.
know that Athena and I have talked before, and I think it was back on the boundaries hangout that we did where Athena, you talked about that wonderful um, three-step process of sharing what you need with someone, sharing a boundary, communicating a limit.
Yes.
When you blank, I feel blank, I need you to blank.
Blank. Yep.
Um, and that is a really healthy way to communicate with people.
Because you're not saying, I hate you, you're awful, it's all your fault, you're horrible, etc. You are actually, you're communicating a need in a healthy way, which probably feels really foreign to you at that point because
Right.
we weren't raised with healthy communication
No.
skills. So,
And you're owning your stuff. You're saying, hey, I feel this way. Um,
yeah.
One of my pet peeves, probably because it was done to me all the time when I was a child, is when someone says, you make me so mad.
Yeah.
Because I don't make anybody feel anything. Um,
No, you don't.
you know, emotions are a choice. I realize many of us are not raised to believe that, but emotions are a choice. And um, when we feel angry, um, it's not because someone made us angry. So yeah, that's one of my pet peeves. Um,
Yeah.
and the last thing is to learn healthy parenting skills. I realize that um, when we're not parented well, chances are that while we may not be completely terrible at it, we probably don't have the best parenting skills ourselves. So take a class, read a book, talk to your therapist, talk to your coach, talk to other parents that you look at and you see and you like the way that they interact with their child. You know,
Yeah.
be an anthropologist, study, look, watch, and give yourself the gift of learning how to be a good, healthy parent. Sometimes you don't have the chance to do that before you have children. Sometimes by the time you realize all these things, you already have children. But that doesn't mean you can't change some things.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate at all to ever make an effort to learn something. And don't hesitate either to say to your child, you know what? I realized I was doing that wrong, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm learning to do something new. I think that speaks volumes to a child when you acknowledge that you made a poor choice. Um,
Yeah.
and I think, had any of my abusers ever said something like that to me, I probably would have fallen over and fainted, probably.
Hey, I am gonna actually, I don't know if you can see.
I can. Whoops,
Okay,
there's me.
cool.
Could you do present
Okay,
to all, or I'll just be quiet?
I did not, but can you see where I'm scrolling right here? Can you see me scrolling the Rockstar Tweet of the Week?
No,
Oh no.
I can't
Well,
see it scrolling. I can
oh,
see a tiny bit of it down there.
let's see. I'll stop sharing my screen
Okay, hang
and
on.
then
I think I have it.
maybe you have the Rockstar Tweet of the Week? Do
I can refresh my page.
Awesome! Because I just wanted to do a really awesome shout out for our awesome rock star tweet of the week because it was Katie Doll
Yay,
and
Katie!
yay, Katie! Bobby's going to bring that up on her screen
I
here in
am.
just a moment. And Katie tweeted out this morning during our UK chat, CSAQT. I am proud of myself for speaking out and for making my family better. And Bobby and I were just talking about this. When we when we go the extra mile, and when we realize that we're flying off the handle at our kids and we're getting upset because they left the light switch on and we think they're doing it on purpose, and we're losing our temper and we're raising our voices, and we're, we feel our heart rate getting, elevated, and we realize that it's just, we see things in us that are way too reminiscent of the way we were raised. Like what Bobby was just saying a moment ago, when we go that extra mile and we do the work and we work through our junk and we learn proper communication skills and just parenting skills, life skills, business skills, learn to love people in a way that is not toxic, then we're breaking the cycle of intergenerational family dysfunction. We're breaking the cycle of abuse. And like Bobby was saying earlier, there is nothing more beautiful than knowing that you broke the cycle of abuse for your children. It is just, it's like it's my legacy. It's like, I can't wait for my grandbabies to know someday. I can't wait for my grandbabies to know someday, oh my gosh, my grandma was so cool, because even though she had a crazy life that was really crazy, like cray-cray, big, bad, crazy, like she cared enough to do the hard work and to learn how to be a good mom to our dad, you know? And like, I hope someday that my son will be able to be stoked about that. And, like, he's gone in the military right now, deployed. So I love you, Pumpkin, if you're ever watching this. But yeah, it's just when we do the hard work. And so Katie, the Rockstar Tweet of the Week, that's all you. And to say you're proud of yourself for speaking out and for making your family better, I can't be more proud of you. And there's nothing more amazing of a legacy to leave than to make your family a safer and healthier place for your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So
let's look really quick here at places that you can connect with us.
Yay! Every week.
Yes, every week. And then on Roku and YouTube, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have 2 Twitter chats, CSAQT, which is Child Sexual Abuse Question Time, is geared more towards our UK audience because that's a time frame that works well for them. But we welcome everyone from all around the entire planet, and this does work really well sometimes for some of our US peeps who work at night or have small children playing jungle gym on them in the evenings, and they can have a chance to sit down unencumbered during the day.
Yeah.
So that's at 10 a.m. Pacific time in the U.S. or 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time for the UK. And then Tuesday evenings is our original sex abuse chat, and that's 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and that's 2 a.m. in the UK. And then
you guys are amazing.
Yes, you are. We do this particular live video cast every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and 2 a.m. UK. And if you want to watch, you can watch. You missed one, you missed an episode, or you're having a hard time, you can't sleep, or you're just having a hard time, you can always binge watch on Roku TV or on our YouTube channel.
Do you have our new screen share? I'm so excited for our new screen share. Yay!
I'm going to see if I can switch it.
Okay, so I just want to tell people while Bobby is bringing that up right now, our Roku channel is live as of the other day. And I just want to really thank Renee Christine, who's our developer. She's a genius. She runs Rich Mom University. She has a free report that you can pick up at richmombusiness.com/newbestie. And it's a free report. You can sign up for her newsletter. And here is our screen share.
Yay!
For Recover University. Thank you, Renee Christine.
Look at us there next to HBO.
Yes.
Netflix.
Hello. Oh my God.
Amazon, Instant Prime, and Pandora.
We're in
Look
good
at us,
company.
Keeps.
We're in good company, guys. Roku devices. Okay, so Bobby, I forgot to tell you, I went on today and I became an affiliate for Roku somehow. It's not live yet. I applied. And guys, um, we are going to have a link on our Trauma Recovery University website where you can actually purchase a Roku device, and it would be an affiliate link for us. So it would be probably like maybe we'll have some sort of coupon or some sort of code or something. I don't really know how affiliate stuff works really, but I signed up to be an affiliate for Roku devices, and it's going to be on Trauma Recovery University, and it'll be a button that says Roku. So yeah, we're so excited.
We are excited. We're absolutely excited because this is just a way to reach a whole new audience in a whole new way. You know, and I know we're over time, but one of the things that Athena and I were talking about today, one of the blogs that I posted on Psych Central talked about the epidemic of child abuse that there is in this nation. There are 3 million reports made every year in the United States for child
Only in
sexual
the U.S.
abuse.
That's
Only
not
in the
even
U.S.
including. That's not even including the UK.
No,
Not even including the UK peeps.
no, and that's reported. So we know, as survivors, we know, I know you know, not every case gets reported. So that's 3 million reported cases, okay? Then we sat down and we looked at, okay, what are the big health issues that are getting a lot of news play? And not that they shouldn't, but they do, is Ebola and HIV. There were 2.2 million cases, new cases of Ebola and HIV worldwide in 2014. Worldwide. And yet we have 3 million cases of child sexual assault only in the United States. And yet we don't talk about it. We don't reach out. We don't have programs. We don't shut down businesses and shut down schools and bring in the CDC and have news reports and publish, you know, leaflets that we hand out at the airport for child sexual abuse. And this is why Athena and I work so hard to get information out to all of you, because we know you're there and we know you're not getting the help that you need, because our society doesn't want to acknowledge that it happens. And when they don't acknowledge that it happens, it means they don't build the programs and services to help you.
Yeah.
So that's why we're so excited about this Roku TV channel, because it is putting information at the fingertips of people who desperately need it.
Yeah.
So, yay!
Yay! Just a really quick little shout out to some of our peeps that are interacting with us live. I know that Brenda was tweeting out a moment ago in jest, like making a joke, but not really a joke, that she could make wedding patterns out of the patterns that are in her family of dysfunction. And then Jack was mentioning that it's very, very similar. The references that we're making tonight in our broadcast are very similar to those as the references that are made in 12-step programs. A lot of the references that we're making, like acting out,
Right.
And you know, oftentimes we have had references previously that were very similar to 12-step program. So we just wanted to shout out, thanks for interacting with us live, you guys. And Pepper, we miss you. And we have such a huge family of people that are just awesome survivors, and we're so grateful for each of you every single week. You are the reason why we do this. You're why we show up every single week. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for sharing this information with someone who you know needs it. You know, point them towards our YouTube channel, point them towards Roku TV, point them towards a Twitter chat. Sometimes that's the only way that we'll really get to be able to bring in the people who need the information that we're providing.
Ooh, or Or we could point them towards our website, and we have complimentary downloadable resources for them. It doesn't cost them anything. They can go to traumarecoveryuniversity.com and click on the tab that says downloadables, and they'll get immediate access free to our entire library of downloadable resources. And yeah, we're just grateful that you guys are passing along the information, sharing it with survivors that need it. And Bobby, I just appreciate you so much. I just love that I get to do this with you every single week. I feel just blessed.
I agree, and I know that sometimes we have a lot of fun about a topic that is oh so serious, but that's just a reflection of the relationship that Athena and I have with each other. So
Yeah,
we love doing this, and we love being with each other, doing it with each other. So, yay!
yeah. And you guys are the reason we do it. And most of our lives have been spent being completely stressed out and having to live seriously and really just going through heavy situations and recovery and all of that. So you've had enough of being down about it. Now it's time to look forward to your recovery and feeling better, and we are living proof that you can come from crazy situations and next to nothing or less than nothing, and then do the work and actually function and
Yep.
not be curled up in a ball in the fetal position, rocking yourself in the corner, which is probably where I would be if I didn't do all the hard work. So we love you guys. We're grateful for you, and we will see you next week. And we invite you to join our Twitter chat, which is called Sex Abuse Chat, and that's Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Use the hashtag #SexAbuseChat, or even next week on Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And otherwise, we'll see you here same time next week.
Okay. Bye, everybody.